Hi, my name is Sid Jackson. I'm the microbiology specialist at Desert Vista, and today we'll be learning how to use the Market Forge Sterilmatic Autoclave. Autoclaves use steam and pressure to sterilize and decontaminate waste, microbiological tubes that have been used, glassware, all that kind of stuff. When running the Market Forge Autoclave, you'll be operating three major areas: preparing a load, during a load, and after the load. The main areas are the main control panel up top, the chamber where you'll be putting the items and the chamber door, and the drainage valve on bottom. So looking at the control panel, going from right to left, we first have the indicator light, which turns on when the actual timed cycle is running. We have the timer dial, which allows you to input the amount of time that you would like to have the actual sterilization section running. The temperature gauge, which shows you the current temperature inside the chamber. The temperature and pressure dial, which allows you to set the settings of the cycle, what temperature you want it to reach, and what pressure you want it to reach during the time setting. The exhaust selector, which allows you to select whether you want, when depressurizing, a fast exhaust cycle or a slow exhaust cycle. We used fast exhaust for items like glassware and other solids, slow for anything that has a liquid inside of it. Then we have the pressure gauge, which shows the pressure inside the chamber. The low water indicator light, which will turn on when there is not enough water inside the chamber to continue with a proper sterilization. When this turns on, you will need to wait for the chamber to depressurize, add more water, and then hit the little reset button here, and then restart the cycle. The next part of the autoclave is the chamber. This is where you'll be putting the items to be sterilized or decontaminated inside. In the bottom, you'll be putting the water and then shutting the door down before the cycle begins. When closing the door, make sure that the hook on the handle inserts behind the bar and you shut the door securely. The last section of the autoclave is the drainage valve. This is used to drain off water after a cycle is completed. In the downward position, the drain is open, and any water that goes into the chamber will come out through the bottom. When shut, you just twist it to the closed position. You will feel a stop as you turn, and now the drain is closed, and any water that is put inside will stay inside the chamber. When working the autoclave, there are many parts of safety that need to be taken into account. When decontaminating, you'll be dealing with both chemical hazards and biohazards, as well as the actual thermal hazard of the autoclave itself. So when working with the autoclave, you need to make sure you're wearing proper PPE, which includes gloves, a lab coat, safety glasses, and when the autoclave is hot, autoclave gloves. Next, we will be going over what can be put into the autoclave for sterilization. When dealing with plastics, it can be hard to distinguish, so always look for a container that says autoclave safe. Some items that we have at Pima are these forceps, spreaders, which you might find in paper bags like this if they are already sterile, test tubes with Kim caps, test tubes with screw caps. When dealing with a screw-on cap, you want to make sure that the cap is not screwed on tightly, but it won't come off. That makes sure the gas exchange can occur without risking splatters inside the autoclave. You can also use just regular glassware, and if you want to sterilize it, you want to make sure that it is covered. Next, we'll be going over what cannot be put into the autoclave. Most of the items we have concern of are not autoclave safe plastics, like our shoebox bins or Ziploc baggies. You also don't want to put any chemicals that are corrosive inside the autoclave, like bleach. When handling decontamination cycles for biohazard waste, we want to make sure that anything like Petri plates or soiled paper towels are put into clear autoclave bags without biohazard symbols. We also have bags that are red with biohazard symbols for glove waste, which we do not autoclave on site. You also do not want to autoclave inside of the clear plastic solid waste bags, because these will melt in the autoclave. Next, we'll be going over how to load the autoclave. First, you want to shut the drain valve and then load it with DI water specifically. You use about 4 quarts of water per load. Four quarts is about 1 centimeter or 1 finger width below the lip of the door. The next step is to actually load the autoclave with the items to be decontaminated. When dealing with solid biohazard media, you want to make sure it is in a clear autoclave bag, tied loosely with a twist tie, enough to make sure that you can get a finger into the hole, and put it in a tray in case there is leakage. When dealing with test tube media, you want to make sure it's stored in a rack with the broth cultures and the solid cultures separated, because after the cycle is complete, they are disposed of differently. We want to make sure a piece of autoclave tape, either on a piece of index card like here, or just straight up tape from the roll, gets put into the autoclave. Now we're ready to shut the autoclave and set the timer. We can find the correct time to set it to on the autoclave log. Here we're going to do for 45 minutes because it's a decontamination load. You want to make sure that because we have liquids in there that it's on a slow exhaust release. After setting the autoclave cycle to run, we need to make sure to fill out the autoclave log. Here we can see a already partially filled out log where for each load that you do, you fill out the date, the unit that you used, the load contents, which could be either media to be sterilized or cultures. Here you can see MRVP tubes specified specifically. The load type, whether or not it is sterilization, where you'd put an S here, or decontamination, which you can see here is D. The start time, the length of time that the cycle is running for, whether or not it is a fast or slow exhaust setting, and the start operator initials. When the load is finished, the ending operator will fill out their initials, and in this case would put the autoclave tape in this section to show whether or not it reached temperature. If the autoclave tape reaches temperature, it'll get these black bars and it counts as a pass. Now that the autoclave cycle has finished and we are at 100 C and 0 psi inside the chamber, we are ready to open the autoclave to unload it. Before we actually open it, we want to make sure that we're wearing the proper PPE with the autoclave gloves, glasses, and lab coat. And we want to make sure that we stand as far back from the autoclave as possible, because once it opens, a lot of steam is going to rush out, and we don't want to scald our face. Now that it's open, we're going to let it vent for a while to get some of the fumes out, and then we'll completely unload it. Now that we let it off gas a little bit, we will drain out the water and then completely remove everything, including the slip of autoclave tape that we put in there, and add that to the autoclave log like we talked about earlier. When pulling things out, make sure that you're wearing gloves, and it can drip with hot water, so please be careful. So today we covered the parts of the Market Forged Sterilmatic Autoclave, what it's used for, how to load and unload, the PPE and safety aspects, what can and cannot go into an autoclave, as well as the autoclave log. Thank you for watching.